Hi, I'm Alan Ross. We're here at the RE Plus Conference and Exposition. We're talking to thought leaders about the future of the energy economy. So join us and enjoy. So my next guest is a good friend and somebody that is like the icon of IEEE meetings, Wayne Bishop. Wayne just flew in from Malaysia where they had an IEEE conference. Wayne is the senior vice president or executive vice president of Quanta, right?
No, actually senior director. You just gave me two promotions, but senior director
of
industry outreach for Quanta.
Okay, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I want to talk about your role as the Vice President of Meetings and Conferences for IEEE. So PES, T&D, PES, right? IEEE, PES. How many conferences and expos do they have?
We have 30 conferences and expos a year.
And do you go
around
to all
the world? No, I couldn't possibly go to all of them. I'd be on the road every single week out of the year. But I go to the bigger ones. Okay. The big one, of course, the biggest being T&D. That was just held in New Orleans. And then next year we're launching, of course, the brand new IEEE PES Grid Edge Technologies Conference and Exhibition. Okay, and that'll be in San Diego.
We're going to talk a lot about that because that's one of the reasons that we're here. They are co-sponsors of this event for APC Technologies and RE and H2 Hydrogen, H2 Scan. So, but before we get there, you just came back from Malaysia. What was that conference and what was it like?
Yeah, so the conference was called the IEEE PES PowerCon. It's held every year and they move it around more or less Asia Pacific. It was hosted by our Malaysia IEEE PES chapter. They did a great job. We had 39 countries in attendance. I gave the keynote address. But you know what was most interesting, Alan, is all of the topics that were discussed in Malaysia are the same topics, the same issues we're having here in the U.S.
Yeah. Wasn't it right before COVID that you were at a conference in Malaysia? Was it?
No, that was Bangkok. I was in Bangkok. That was for our GTD, which will be held next spring. Okay. The last time it was held was, you're right, in Bangkok in 2019. It'll be held next spring in Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. And they're actually finalizing the technical program as we speak.
And APC Technologies are going to be doing interviews in Turkey, in Istanbul. So if you're there, you got to do this again.
Okay, I will be there for sure, and we're excited about Istanbul, Turkey, because it's really the gateway to Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Yeah. So we're expecting a good turnout.
Excellent. So I want to go to Grid Edge. There's a genesis of Grid Edge, and we had Ahad Ismailian, who's the chair of that steering committee, who's doing an amazing job.
Amazing job.
Yeah. But you guys said, okay, we've got a lot of conferences. Let's add another one. Tell me about how Grid Edge came about.
Okay, good question. As you know, our largest event is the T&D show. Right. But that's held every other year. That's on even years. And our IEEE PES members, because it is a member event, came to us and said, gee, it would be really nice if we had an annual event so we don't have to wait every 2 years. And this particularly was felt during COVID, when the last time we had a T&D event was 2018. Right. So everybody was essentially waiting, 4 years before seeing everyone. And they wanted to take a step further and say, let's do an event about the hot technologies that are happening today. Yeah. Energy storage, wind, solar, integrating DERs onto the grid, electric vehicle charging stations, data analytics, smart buildings, smart cities, all these hot topics that are happening sort of behind the meter at the grid edge. And so that's what the event is focused on, and it will be held every other year. The first two, I think, will probably be in San Diego. That's sort of one of the epicenters, if you will, of these technologies. And it'll be hosted by San Diego Gas and Electric next April.
Yeah, I know you're going down there with Ahad to talk to those people about local organizing, things like that. When this conference came about, there was a thought of what Grid Edge would be. And then two things happened. War in Europe, and all of these bills that got passed in the United States, and everything else around the world. Suddenly Grid Edge is significantly more important and significantly more funded and much more viable than it's ever been.
Absolutely. And of course, decarbonization is at the top of everybody's list, right? And I'll often use the tagline, decarbonization through electrification. And to your point, The U.S. government now, with this new infrastructure bill and new infrastructure law, is pumping a tremendous amount of money, where? Into our industry, into these grid edge technologies. I think it's something like $3 billion they're putting into electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging stations alone. 3.45 to be exact. Thank you. You're better at the numbers than I am. And it's incredible. It's going to really change our lives. It's going to be changing our industry. People are talking about our industry now, which they never did, as you know, 10 years ago, and now they are. So
people want to come to work in our industry, and it was all electronics before, right?
That's right.
And now it's energy, and it's really a great time.
It's a great time, but yet it's a challenging time too. We've got bi-directional power. Power was not made to do this, but now it's doing this. You know, when I first got in the industry in the early 90s, it was just, okay, generation, transmission, distribution, all done by one utility, and very regulated. The customer wasn't even a customer. He or she was a ratepayer. You know, they even changed that. It's an amazing industry to be involved in, for sure.
So you've done this for a while, meetings. How long will you remain being the VP of meetings?
So I have at least one more year left of my term of office. So it's a total of 5 years. So I'll see it through the end of next year. I may continue on one more year to see it through another T&D, because I was only able to have one T&D during my term. We actually had a meeting yesterday of the local organizing committee. That will be Southern California Edison. They'll host the next T&D. It'll be in 2024, right here at the Anaheim Convention Center. And Southern Cal Edison has put together an outstanding local organizing committee, and they're already getting started on the planning, which is great.
So on the even years, it's going to be IEEE PES T&D, and I'll go back to that a little bit.
And then the odd years, Grid Edge.
But we went from 2018 to 2024. We just had that event in April, and it was outstanding. Tell me a little bit about that coming back from COVID, IEEE PES T&D. You were beaming, by the way.
I was beaming. It was really the first event where we came out and saw everyone. Post-COVID, people were just thrilled to be in person again. We had it in New Orleans. What better place to have a big party and a celebration than New Orleans? Entergy hit it out of the park in terms of being the host. They put together a world-class technical program. We had a great keynote panel. We ended up getting 10,450 people in attendance. We broke 10,000, which I never thought we would have done. Because everybody was still a little skeptical. COVID was just ending. International attendance was definitely down. But we did have 60 different countries represented. So I was thrilled with the turnout. I was thrilled with the technical program. And it was really the kickoff to getting more people back at IEEE PES events.
So let me switch gears a little bit. This is your volunteer work.
This is my volunteer job, exactly.
We're going to come back to it in a minute, because why do so many of us volunteer so much? And you go, it's like a drug, right?
It really is. It really is. You get hooked.
I know. So we're going to come back to that. But Quanta, tell me your role there. What are you doing, and how they dovetail?
Yeah. So thanks, Alan. As you know, my dad got me into the industry. I grew up in the industry. He was in the industry for 47 years, retired as Vice President of Operations at Doble Engineering. Lived with Mr. Doble. Mr. Doble himself hired him back in the early 60s, and that could be another podcast story for another day, but he's my lifelong mentor. And so I worked at Doble my first 15 years, 18 years of my career after college. And then I went on to Omicron for another 15 years. And then this past April, Damir Novosil, who I've known for about 10 years, said, Wayne, why don't you come work for Quanta? And so it was an opportunity of a lifetime that I really couldn't pass up. And so I started there in April, working on their business development team, but now I'm getting involved in more strategy for the company as a senior director, and I love it. It's a great team of people. The nice thing about it is it's very much a get it done, almost startup mentality, very entrepreneurial, with about 300 people, so you can really make a difference. But, and this is the great part, we're part of Quanta Services, which is tens of billions of dollars a year in sales, huge operation with tens of thousands of employees. And so we have the resources of that big fish that you wouldn't have if you were just a standalone entrepreneur. We're doing some really cool things. I like it because we're getting involved in things that I was never involved in before, like energy storage projects and integration of DERs onto the grid, and reliability studies, asset management studies, and it's been great. I really enjoy it. Again, only been there since April, but I work with a great team too.
Yeah.
And a very understanding boss who allows me to really be involved with IEEE.
Wasn't he the president of IEEE PES?
He was past PES president, so he understands the value of being involved in IEEE PES for sure.
So we're going to end on this one thing. Why do we do it? Why do you do it? Because you really are heavily involved in IEEE PES. You're like the John McDonalds of the world that just give so much time and energy. You did that when you were with Omicron. I see you doing it now, but why?
It's interesting you asked that question. I actually just went up to my old alma mater, Merrimack College, to talk with the power engineering students.
Yeah.
And this is why I do it. And this is what I told them of why they should get in our industry. There's no better industry right now to get involved with than the electric power industry if you want to make a difference.
Wow.
What do I mean by that? Making a difference, leaving the world a better place through decarbonization. We can do that. We in this industry have the greatest opportunity of a lifetime now to get to net zero, to reduce our emissions and decarbonize. And so that's why I do it. It's really leaving the world a much better place. As you know, I do a lot of work with Luma as well, Luma Energy down in Puerto Rico. My hearts and prayers go out to the people down there and what they're going through. But they will rebuild. Will rebuild. They'll rebuild a better grid. And so that's why I do it. Power is a necessity. And it's a good thing that you and I are working on to help decarbonize.
You know, as an old guy who's in this industry, I am inspired by that very sentiment. We're making the world a better place. That's what IEEE is all about. That's why we do it.
That's right.
Wayne, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay.
Appreciate you having me.
All righty, bye. So all of these interviews that we have conducted have been sponsored by the people behind me. The first one is the Grid Edge Conference and Exposition, which takes place in April 2023 in San Diego. The IEEE PES Grid Edge Conference and Exposition has been a long time in the making. This will be our first one, and it will be a delight. I can already tell you that we've had more papers, more panelists than we could possibly hold, and the conference itself is going to be brilliant. The second organization sponsoring us is H2Scan. H2Scan is ubiquitous in the transformer industry as the best. It's kind of like Intel, it's inside. H2Scan is a hydrogen sensing technology that is patented, that has been around for the last 20 years. It really came on strong as transformer hydrogen became a problem. DGA recognized by IEEE. And I just thank the people at H2Scan. They are also in electrolyzers, fuel cells, battery storage, but hydrogen safety is incredibly important. They're in refining, in processing, so H2Scan, thank you. Lastly, RE+. We are at the Renewable Energy Plus Conference and Exposition, and as we close this one out, I want to thank them for allowing us to conduct these interviews here, for allowing us to be part of their incredible conference. It's been enormous. There have been 27,000 people that have attended this conference, and you can tell the energy, the excitement that's taking place within the renewables industry, so thank you, RE+. It's been a delight to do these interviews, and I hope you've enjoyed them.